Tension hung in the arid Utah air like the charged atmosphere before a storm. The sun had barely crested the horizon, painting the twisted rock formations around Blind Frog Ranch in hues of rust and fire. Duane Ollinger stood at the edge of the property, arms folded across his chest, his eyes fixed on the trail that wound its way out of the canyon. Something felt wrong. The stillness wasn't peaceful, it was watchful. For days, he and his crew had been plagued by disturbances. Equipment shifted overnight, fresh boot prints where there should have been none, and strange flickers of light at the tree line. It wasn't just wildlife. Duane knew this land. He'd studied it, bled into its soil, pushed deeper into its secrets than anyone before. But someone, or something, was pushing back the radio. Charlie's voice crackled. He'd spotted movement near the southern fence. Not deer, not a stray hiker. Human. Again Duane turned toward the center of the ranch, where a makeshift command post had been rigged from shipping containers and camouflage netting. The team inside, Paul the geologist, Chad the diver, and Eric the tech guy, were already scanning monitors. The security cameras, motion detectors, and newly installed thermal sensors lit up the screens like a war room. 3 figures moved with deliberate intent across the property's boundary. Not hikers, not campers. Trespassers. The crew didn't panic. They moved like they had trained for this moment. Radios checked. Headlamps turned off. Weapons within reach but not raised. These weren't ordinary trespassers, they came with a purpose. Maybe they were after the treasure rumored to be hidden beneath the ranch. Or perhaps they were drawn by something stranger, something ancient, buried deep within the cavernous tunnels that spiderwebbed beneath the surface. Duane motioned toward the ATVs. Within minutes, he and Charlie were weaving through the mesquite and brush, skimming over the land's uneven contours. They reached the ridge just as the sun broke fully into the sky, casting long shadows that danced unnaturally among the boulders. Below them, the trespassers moved with confidence, avoiding the obvious paths, ducking under infrared tripwires as if they knew exactly where they were. They weren't amateurs. Back at base, Eric fed coordinates into the drone system, launching a quadcopter that zipped into the sky. From above, its infrared lens painted a chilling picture. 5 men, all wearing dark clothing, balaclavas obscuring their faces, rifles slung tight to their backs. Not poachers, not curious locals. Mercenaries, or something close enough Dark Crew had prepared for many threats, flooding, cave-ins, even the rumors of strange electromagnetic pulses in the tunnel systems. But this was different. These men were tactically trained, possibly ex-military. They moved like a unit with a mission. Wasn't about to let them get far. Using radio cues, the team split. Paul and Chad moved to cut off access to the main tunnel opening, while Eric provided overwatch from a perch above the canyon's lip. Duane and Charlie began to flank the intruders from the west, where the terrain dipped into a dry wash. The trespassers paused as if they sensed the maneuver. One lifted a hand, gesturing to fan out. Another pointed directly toward the sealed tunnel gate. It clicked for Duane. They weren't just exploring. They were after something. The rumors had spread too far. The gold, the Aztec legends, the strange artifacts discovered and buried again. Maybe someone with power, someone watching the show from behind government walls or private vaults, had sent these men. As the distance closed, Duane caught the glint of steel in one of their hands, a bolt cutter. They intended to breach the tunnel. The implications hit hard. That cave wasn't just sealed to protect treasure or historical secrets. The air down there, metallic, almost sentient, carried an unspoken warning. Even the earth had whispered for them to stay away. Chad and Paul, crouched in the brush, waited for Duane's signal. One of the intruders spotted movement, raising his rifle just as Duane's voice echoed through the megaphone, sharp, commanding. The men froze. Tension ignited like dry tinder. For a heartbeat, everything held in perfect silence said standoff unraveled. One of the masked men dropped the bolt cutters and reached into his vest. Eric's voice screamed over the radio. Thermal flare, something non-lethal but blinding. The world lit up in searing white as the flare detonated, masking the Trespassers' retreat. In the chaos, two of them slipped into the shadows. The others scattered, some toward the forest line, some toward the canyon's eastern edge. Duane's team moved fast. No shots fired, but adrenaline ran hot. Charlie tackled one near the dry wash, pinning him with practiced strength. The man didn't fight, just stared through his mask with unsettling calm. The others disappeared into footprints and broken branches in their wake. At base, they stripped the captured man of gear, encrypted radio, outdated military tags, a map of the Blind Frog tunnels with certain paths circled in red. Someone had been watching them, learning the terrain, planning this for weeks. As the sun climbed high and the desert began to shimmer with heat, Duane gathered the crew around the table inside the command center. The map was laid flat. It wasn't just speculation anymore. Someone out there knew the ranch held more than just stories. They had intel, backing, and objectives. Paul studied the red circles. They matched the geological anomalies he detected, places where rock shouldn't be porous, where ancient voids pulsed with unexplained readings. He had long theorized that the underground system beneath Blind Frog Ranch wasn't entirely natural. Something had shaped it with intent, and maybe someone, or something, was trying to reclaim it. The captured man refused to speak. Not a word. Not a gesture. He sat in the temporary holding shed, unmoving, as if waiting for retrieval. Eric monitored him via camera, noting the rigid posture, the unblinking eyes. It was unnatural, almost mechanical. Duane paced attack had shifted everything. No longer could they rely solely on secrecy and rural isolation. They needed stronger defenses, better surveillance, and answers. That night, as coyotes howled in the distance and the stars burned over the canyon, Duane returned to the sealed tunnel. He ran his hand along the reinforced gate, remembering the first time they'd opened it. The air had roared out like a creature exhaling after centuries of sleep. The symbols etched on the rocks deeper in, the ones no archaeologist could identify, seemed to shimmer in the torchlight, vibrating with meaning. Now, someone else wanted in. Whoever they weren't just curious. They were determined, maybe hired, maybe believers in something darker. The land around Blind Frog Ranch was changing. It hummed with tension, with secrets trying to surface. As Duane stared into the black of the sealed tunnel, he didn't feel fear. He felt responsibility. The ranch had chosen him, in a way. And whatever truths lay buried in its depths, treasure, legend, or something stranger, he would protect them. The land around Blind Frog Ranch never rested easy. Beneath the sun-bleached rock and sagebrush scrub lay a network of secrets, ancient and pulsing with a strange energy. For years, Duane Ollinger and his team had carved deeper into the mystery. Tunnels, sinkholes, inexplicable geologic formations, and with every new discovery came new questions. And, more recently, new threats. It started subtly. Footprints where none should be. Fence lines cut clean through the night. Supplies shifted or stolen, though no alarms ever triggered. Duane had seen enough to recognize a pattern. These weren't wanderers or thrill-seekers. They were scouting, testing boundaries, measuring reactions. The ranch, long steeped in legends of lost Aztec gold and unexplained phenomena, had drawn attention. Dangerous attention. Early morning mist drifted across the high desert when the first major breach occurred. The crew had been spread thin that day. Chad prepping diving gear near the underground water system, Eric monitoring seismic activity in the northeast tunnel, Paul logging core samples, and Duane had been overseeing equipment repairs near the base camp. A low, rhythmic pulse echoed across the canyon wall. Not mechanical. Not natural. Eric's sensor grid lit up with movement. 5 distinct heat signatures moving fast, low to the ground, toward the southern perimeter. They approached with alarming precision, bypassing every early warning system and laser tripwire like they had studied the layout. Duane's gut hardened. These weren't amateurs. They were organized. The crew mobilized quickly. No panic, only practiced urgency. ATV engines fired up with muted growls. Radios buzzed with silent codes. Drones lifted into the air, their cameras cutting through morning haze to track the intruders in infrared. From above, the drone feed showed them clearly, cloaked figures in matte black, moving like a tactical unit. Their faces were hidden behind masks, their hands gloved. No obvious insignia, no identifiers. Each carried a pack and what looked like compact tools, or possibly weapons. They weren't here to observe. They were here to enter. The crew maneuvered through familiar trails, flanking from 2 sides. Paul and Charlie approached the lower ridge to intercept. Duane took a direct line toward the tunnel entrance, an access point sealed months ago.